Ah, well, for those of you too thick to realise that's not the main music to Skyrim, go get your face smashed in with a hammer. But for those of you who did realise it was from The Lion King and not from Skyrim, good job on you, because today I will be reviewing The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Let's get straight into it. Now, for the next 3 games we'll be reviewing, whichever one I'm doing currently, Morrowind, Oblivion or Skyrim, going to split the episode into 6 main points. Number 1 being the NPC interactions you may have with other non-player characters, NPCs, and whether NPCs are essential or not. Number 2 being on the factions and their quest lines as well as side quests. Number 3 being on the quest and journal systems and more on the main quest. Number 4 being the impact your player character, the one that you control, has on the world or the country that the game's taking place in Tamriel. Number 5 on puzzles and dungeons and how hand-holdy they are and how the dungeon layouts are. And number 6 is on the soundtrack. Point number 1, NPC interactions and essential NPCs. In Skyrim, the amount of dialogue options for NPCs has been heavily reduced. On average, you can only have at maximum 2 to 3 different topics of dialogue per NPC, and then that will also include the amount of conversations you can have on that topic. I mean, let's say for example, you can have 2 topics for one character, such as Branoon, with one of them being getting his ale from a pub, and another one asking about how poor he is. But then on those 2 topics, you can only reveal certain small bits of information, normally around only 1 or 2 different lines of optional dialogue. This heavily reduces the game's feel of being organic and real because of the lack of involvement you can actually have in NPCs' lines. Even their base lines they spurt out you randomly seem really boring, and despite your rank in, let's say, a nearby faction such as the College Companions, they'll have no recollection of that whatsoever. But then along came Bethesda and its essential NPCs. Dear God, Bethesda. As you might see slightly stretched out a bit longer into this video, you'll find out that various NPCs physically cannot die. Although yes, there are a lot of NPCs like the basic villagers, the guards, and the more unimportant NPCs can die in Skyrim. The more useful and story plot narrative based NPCs simply will not be put down. They simply just will not die, no matter what you do. Morrowind, however, was the game that got it right. You could inexplicably kill every single NPC, and the game would not prevent you and hold you from doing it. It would simply state to reload a save if the character was involved in any plot-wise events within the game. And yes, I have used this footage previously before. It's just a little bit sort of after the original footage that I used in that first Morrowind review episode. Point number 2, factions in Skyrim. To be honest with you, I prefer the factions in Skyrim compared to the other games. They're much more in-depth and in detail because there's only one of each faction. In previous games, such as Oblivion, there were lots and lots of there were very few in-depth and unique mage and fighters guilds and thieves guilds that matter, and other stations that matter, because there were so many of them. Although yes, the quests were interesting, the NPCs themselves were very, very, very boring and flat for all that matter. However, this was changed in Skyrim. But in Skyrim, this issue was improved. The characters within these guilds did have more of a personality, had more in-depth skills, more ways you could, in some cases, talk to them if they were slightly more plot divisive and were overall more interesting. And you can get more out of the quest based on, or not on the quest, about more out of the factions, because more detail had been put into this one singular faction instead of multiple smaller factions. For example, in the Companions questline you can see right here. In the Companions questline, for example, you could, after gaining enough trust with them, become a bloodthirsty werewolf and gain supernatural-like abilities such as extreme strength, faster speed, a werewolf perk tree, and the ability to feed on the blood and corpses of others. Point number 3. The quest and journal system in Skyrim. Just looking from this image, you can probably realise what I have against it. Little floaty arrows to point wherever you have to go. In Morrowind they had this better. There was a thicked out journal system that would give you interesting details on where to go and what to do and how to do it. And optional things as well, and it didn't always give you the main answer. However, Skyrim was not the first one to incorporate this little floaty arrow. This little bastard escaped the realms of Bethesda and incorporated a new feature into Oblivion and Skyrim. The little floaty arrow that marked wherever you went, in every single quest, with no exemplary features. That last bit didn't really make sense, but I'm going to say anyway. Although Oblivion did have a solid journal system, this arrow was what brought down Oblivion and the latter of Skyrim, which we are now reviewing today. That is all we have time for in this episode of the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Review Part 1. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment and share. Goodbye, and see you in Part 2.